There is a moment, a specific moment, that every man eventually faces. You are sitting there, waiting, hoping someone will reach out, hoping someone will notice, hoping someone will come through, and then nothing. The phone doesn't ring. Nobody shows up, nobody saves you. And that moment, that silence, is either the most devastating thing that ever happened to you, or the greatest gift you ever received. Welcome back to Powerful Mindset. Today, we're going into something uncomfortable, something most people spend their entire lives running from. The truth that nobody is coming. Not your family, not your friends, not the universe, not fate. Nobody is riding in on a white horse to fix your finances, rebuild your confidence, repair your relationships, or hand you the life you deserve. The Stoics understood this over 2,000 years ago, and the men who truly lived by it, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they didn't become legends because they had the most help. They became legends because they needed the least. So today, I'm going to walk you through why you're still waiting, what the Stoics actually said about self-reliance, and most importantly, what happens to the man who finally stops waiting and starts moving. Stay until the end, because the last section of this video may be the thing that changes the trajectory of your life. Let me ask you something honest. How long have you been waiting? Maybe you're waiting for the right moment to start that business. Waiting for someone to believe in you before you believe in yourself. Waiting for your situation to improve before you improve. Waiting for permission. Here's what nobody tells you about waiting. Waiting is a decision. It feels passive. It feels like you're just pausing, like you're being cautious, like you're being smart. But waiting is one of the most active choices a man can make, because every day you wait, you're choosing stagnation. You're choosing the familiar prison of comfort over the uncertain road of growth. Psychologists call this the rescue fantasy. It's a subconscious belief that relief is coming from the outside, that if you just hold on long enough, circumstances will align, someone will arrive, and everything will fall into place. And here's the dangerous part. This fantasy isn't random. It's wired into us. From childhood, most of us were taught that when things go wrong, someone comes to fix it. A parent, a teacher, a doctor. We learned that distress produces a rescuer. But adulthood doesn't work that way. In adulthood, distress produces more distress, unless you become the force that moves. The Stoics didn't just philosophize about this. They lived it. And the most powerful example isn't some philosopher sitting in an ivory tower. It's a man who was born as random. His name was Epictetus. Born approximately 50 AD, not into freedom, not into wealth, not into opportunity. Born into chains. He was a slave in Rome, owned by a man named Epictetus himself, a freedman who served under Emperor Nero. By most accounts, Epictetus was physically disabled, possibly due to abuse from his master. He had every reason, every excuse, to spend his life in bitterness. No one was coming to free him. No one was coming to educate him. No one was coming to give him a better life. And yet, Epictetus became one of the most influential philosophers in human history. Not because his circumstances changed, not because he got lucky, not because someone rescued him, but because he discovered a single principle that would become the foundation of Stoic philosophy. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Let those words settle. Not fight what you cannot control. Not resent what you don't have. Not wait for what isn't here. Make the best use of what is in your power. Epictetus identified two categories of existence, things inside your control and things outside your control. Inside your control, your thoughts, your judgments, your effort, your response, your character. Outside your control, everything else. Other people, external events, outcomes, timing, other people's opinions of you. And here's what's radical about this. Once a man truly internalizes this distinction, waiting for external rescue becomes not just ineffective. It becomes philosophically absurd. Why would you wait for something that is, by definition, outside your control, when the only thing that has ever and will ever truly belong to you is you? That is the beginning of doing it alone. Not loneliness, not isolation, not arrogance, sovereignty. Now I want to take you to the other end of the spectrum. If Epictetus represents a man who had nothing and chose himself anyway, Marcus Aurelius represents a man who had everything and still understood that he could not rely on any of it. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome from 161 to 180 AD. He commanded the most powerful empire on earth. He had armies, wealth, servants, advisors, influence beyond measure. And yet, in the pages of his private journal, a book we now call Meditations, never meant for anyone else to read, he wrote with brutal self-honesty about how alone the work of being a good man truly is. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Here is a man who could have delegated everything, who could have pointed to the chaos of his empire, and he was dealing with chaos. Plagues, wars, political betrayal, the death of children, and said, 'This is not my fault. This is not my responsibility.' But he didn't. He woke up every single morning and he wrote. He reminded himself of his duties. He corrected his own thinking. He held himself accountable to a standard that nobody else could see or enforce. Because Marcus knew something that most people in his position forget. Position does not produce character. Only daily self-discipline does. He had advisors, but he questioned their counsel with his own mind. He had generals, but he led campaigns himself. He had a throne, but he sat on it with the posture of a servant to philosophy. In one of the most revealing passages of Meditations, Marcus writes, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one, not find one. Not wait for one to guide you. Not hope the world produces one. Be one." That single sentence contains the entire philosophy of self-reliance. The world doesn't need you to find a model. The world, your world, needs you to become one, and you do that alone. In the silence of your own discipline, in the privacy of your own effort, in the hours nobody else sees. So what does doing it alone actually look like in practice? Not theory, not ancient philosophy in a museum. Right now, in your life, this week. The Stoics gave us 3 laws. I call them the 3 laws because they aren't suggestions. They aren't inspirational quotes for your wall. They are operating principles. The difference between a man who moves and a man who waits. Law 1, amor fati, love your circumstances, don't wait for better ones. Nietzsche borrowed this concept from the Stoics and named it amor fati, love of fate. The Stoics believed that the moment you begin, wishing your circumstances were different, before taking action, you've already lost. Not because circumstances don't matter, but because the man who waits for ideal circumstances never builds the capacity to thrive in real ones. Marcus Aurelius led campaigns in the middle of a plague that killed millions. He didn't wait for the plague to pass. He adapted. He moved. He led inside the chaos, not after it. Your application. Stop waiting for the right time, the right resources, the right support. The right time is always the one you're in. What is one action, just one, that you've been delaying because conditions weren't right? Do it tomorrow morning, imperfectly, in the wrong conditions, with half the resources you think you need. That is amor fati in practice. Law 2, memento mori, remember you are mortal, so stop wasting time. The Stoics carried a constant awareness of death. Not morbidly, but as a focusing agent. Seneca, one of the most practical Stoic writers, said something that should shake every person listening to this. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. But he also said, begin at once to live and count each day as a separate life. Every day you wait is a day you do not get back. Think about that, not abstractly, specifically. If you're waiting to get in shape, you've already lost the years your body was most resilient. If you're waiting to build something, you've already lost the momentum of starting young. If you're waiting to become who you need to be, you're spending the currency of your life on delay. The Stoic practice of memento mori isn't about fear of death. It's about respect for life. Every morning the Stoics would remind themselves, I may not have tomorrow. Not to be paralyzed by this, but to be activated by it. Your application. Write down the one thing you keep delaying. The project, the conversation, the commitment, the change. Now ask yourself, If I knew I had 1 year left, would I still wait? Your answer tells you everything. Law 3. Virtus. Virtue is the only real currency. The Stoics believed that external things, money, status, relationships, recognition, are what they called preferred indifference. Nice to have, but not the source of a man's worth. The only thing that makes a man truly wealthy, truly powerful, is his virtue, his courage, his discipline, his honesty, his wisdom. And here is the crucial point. Virtue cannot be given to you. It cannot be inherited, borrowed, or outsourced. No one can be disciplined for you. No one can be courageous instead of you. No one can build wisdom on your behalf. When Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, he wasn't writing for publication. He was writing to hold himself accountable to virtue, because he knew that even as emperor, even surrounded by people, the daily work of becoming a good man was always done in solitude. Your application. Identify one virtue you've been neglecting. Discipline, honesty, courage, patience. Commit to one daily action, one small, consistent action that exercises that virtue. Not because someone will notice, not because you'll be rewarded, because virtue practiced in private is the foundation of the man you become in public. I want to tell you about a moment, not a dramatic moment, not a movie moment, a quiet moment. It usually happens alone, at night, or early in the morning, when the world is still and you are finally truly honest with yourself. The moment when you stop asking, "Why hasn't anyone helped me?" and start asking, "What am I going to do about this?" That shift, that single internal shift from waiting to moving, is the moment every great Stoic philosopher was pointing toward. Marcus Aurelius called it returning to your ruling reason, the inner faculty that knows what you need to do, even when everything around you is chaos. Epictetus called it the recognition that you were free all along, not free from chains, not free from circumstances, but free in the one place that matters, your mind. Seneca called it simply beginning. It is not that I'm so smart. Seneca wrote, though he was, it is that I have refused to wait for a ship that never comes. You know what you need to do. You know the habit you need to build, the relationship you need to repair or release, the work you need to start, the version of yourself that has been waiting, not for the right time, but for you to choose him. Nobody is coming, not because the world is cruel, but because you were always enough. Because the moment you decide to move, truly move, without waiting for conditions, to improve, without waiting for someone to validate your direction, without waiting for luck to arrive, that is the moment you become the kind of man other people wish would come for them. The man who does it alone doesn't become bitter about the loneliness of it. He becomes grateful, because in the silence of building yourself, nobody can take credit. Nobody can claim the work. Nobody can define what you built. It is entirely, irreversibly yours. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, most powerful man in the world. Epictetus, a slave. No money, no status, no freedom. Two men on opposite ends of every external spectrum. And both of them looked inward. Not because the outside world didn't matter, but because they understood something that most people spend their entire lives refusing to accept. The outside world responds to the inside man. When you build yourself with discipline, when you move without permission, when you act without waiting, the world doesn't stay the same. People notice, opportunities appear, things shift. Not because the universe rewards you, but because you have become someone who creates rather than waits. So let this be the video you look back on. Not because I told you something you didn't know, but because today, after this, you stopped waiting. You closed the browser. You opened something real. You began. Nobody is coming. And that is the best news you've ever received. If this video spoke to something in you, if it landed the way I hoped it would, do one thing. Share it with someone who needs it. Not for the channel, for them. There is a man in your life right now, a friend, a brother, someone you care about, who is sitting somewhere waiting for a sign. Send him this. And if you're new here to Powerful Mindset, subscribe. Because every week, we go deeper into Stoicism, mindset, And the kind of philosophy that doesn't just sound good, it changes how you live. Until the next one, keep building, keep moving. Do it alone if you have to.